was 21 years old the summer this happened. Back then, my parents were always traveling. Business trips, property deals, meetings in different cities, whatever it was. It meant I spent most of my time alone at our lake house while taking online summer classes. The house sat on the very edge of a private neighborhood outside a small town in northern Michigan. And it wasn't the kind of place where people felt the need to lock their doors during the day. Every property was spread out across massive, wooded lots, separated by thick pine trees and long stretches of shoreline. During the daytime, it almost felt peaceful, like something out of a postcard. But at night, it changed. No traffic, no distant city noise, just complete silence, broken only by the occasional splash from the lake, or wind moving through the trees like something passing too close behind you. Growing up there always felt off. Beautiful in daylight, but wrong after dark, especially when you were alone. The house itself was way too big for just 3 people. My parents had remodeled it before I was born. Glass walls facing the water, high ceilings, and a long wooden deck wrapping around the entire back like it was hanging over the lake itself. But my favorite place was the sunroom. It was just off the kitchen, with 3 walls made almost entirely of glass. In the summer, I'd sit there for hours, windows slightly cracked, letting the cold air drift in off the water. That room felt calm, safer than the rest of the house. That's where everything started. It was around 11 at night. I remember the exact time because I had just paused some random crime show on my laptop to make ramen. I was lying sideways on the couch, feet hanging over the armrest, waiting for the water to boil when I heard splashing outside. At first I ignored it. Animals were always moving along the shoreline, deer, raccoons, sometimes even birds landing too close to the water at night. So I told myself that was all it was, just wildlife. But then I heard it again, slower this time, heavier, like something dragging itself through waist-deep water. I muted the TV. The sound of the house immediately dropped into silence, except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan overhead. And then, splash, splash, splash. No mistake now, it was coming from the lake. I sat up slowly, eyes fixed on the dark windows of the sunroom. Outside, the moonlight barely touched the surface of the water. Everything beyond the deck dissolved into a black, endless shape. And then, I heard humming, low, off-key, a man's voice. My stomach tightened instantly. Nobody went into that lake at night. Nobody. The entire area was private. Large properties, long driveways, neighbors who kept to themselves. The idea of someone swimming out there after 11 didn't just feel strange. It felt wrong. I stood up without turning on any lights and moved toward the glass door. The humming continued. Soft, uneven, like someone trying to remember a song while half asleep in the middle of it. I reached the lock, paused, listened. Then I slid the door open. Cold night air rushed inside immediately, brushing against my skin. I stepped onto the wooden deck, and the moment my foot touched the boards, the splashing stopped. The humming stopped. Everything stopped. Silence. It was like the lake itself had been holding its breath. I froze where I stood. The water was completely still now. No ripples, no movement. Just a dark, flat surface stretching into nothing. For a few seconds, I could only hear my own breathing. I scanned the shoreline. Nothing. No movement between the trees. No figure in the water. Nothing at all. Then, somewhere far out in the center of the lake, A single splash. Slow, deliberate, like something going under. I backed up immediately and went back inside, locking the door behind me. My hands felt unsteady now. I tried to convince myself there was a rational explanation. A neighbor, a drunk swimmer, someone messing around. But none of it fit, and I knew it. I grabbed my phone and texted my older brother. "Someone's swimming in the lake outside." No reply. I turned the TV back on just for noise, just to fill the silence. But it didn't help. My eyes kept drifting back to the glass doors. Every reflection in the window felt sharper now. The TV light was bouncing off the glass in a way that made the room behind me feel unfamiliar. And that's when I noticed something I didn't want to notice at all. From outside, anyone standing on that deck could probably see me clearly through the glass. That thought alone was enough to make me mute the TV again. The house fell into a heavy silence. Too heavy. And that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Right outside. Not on the grass. On the deck. Wood creaked slowly under weight. One step, then another. Deliberate, unhurried. I reached for the remote and shut the TV off completely. Instant darkness swallowed the room. For a few seconds, I couldn't see anything at all. No shapes, no outlines, just black. Then, breathing, right outside the window next to me. Deep, wet, slow. My body reacted before my mind did. I dropped behind the couch so fast I almost slammed my head into the coffee table. The breathing didn't stop. It stayed right there. Close. Too close. I pressed a hand over my mouth, trying not to make a sound, feeling every muscle in my body lock in place. And then, a voice. Calm. Right outside the glass. "I know you're in there." Cold ran through me instantly. The voice didn't sound young, didn't sound old either, just exhausted. Like someone who hadn't slept in days. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The silence stretched out for what felt like forever. Then a quiet laugh broke it. Not loud, not insane, just amused. "I can see a reflection," he said. Footsteps moved along the deck again. Slow, casual, like he was taking his time. Then they stopped, right beside the door. The handle rattled. Once, twice. Silence again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I called my dad. Voicemail. My mom? No answer. I hovered over 911 for a second, not sure if I was overreacting, not sure if I was making a mistake. Then I heard myself breathing too loudly and hit the call. I grabbed the fireplace poker from beside the couch and moved through the house, checking every lock. Front door, locked. Garage, locked. Side door, locked. Everything dark, no lights on anywhere. I didn't want him to know where I was. As I moved through the hallway, something hit me. The footsteps were gone. No sound at all. That silence felt worse than anything else. I stood in the kitchen, listening. Nothing. Then, 3 soft knocks at the back glass door. Knock, knock, knock. Not violent, not rushed. Almost polite. I stepped back slowly. The voice came again. "Can you help me?" And something about it made my skin crawl. Not just what he said, but how he said it. Flat, careful,
like it had been rehearsed. I still didn't answer. A long pause followed. Then, quieter than before, "I'm cold." That's when I called 911. The dispatcher asked if I could see him. I said no, just that someone was outside. She asked if I felt threatened. Before I could answer, bang! Something slammed against the glass. I jerked back. Another impact immediately followed. Then another, harder, faster, both hands now. The dispatcher heard. She told me officers were already en route. I backed away from the doors and ran upstairs, locking myself in my parents' bedroom. From there, the lake side of the house was still visible through the windows. I pulled the blinds slightly open. At first, nothing. Just the dock, dark water, trees shifting in the wind. Then, movement. A figure, standing near the end of the dock. Tall, completely still. The moonlight barely caught him, but enough to show he was wet, like he had just come out of the lake. No shirt, skin pale, almost gray. And even from that distance, I could feel it. He was looking straight at the house, straight at me. And then, he smiled.
I ducked away from the window instantly. Headlights cut through the trees a few minutes later. Police. By the time officers made it onto the property, the man was gone. They searched everything, shoreline, woods, even the neighboring lots. Nothing. One officer finally told me it was probably just a drunk from the campground a couple miles away. Another asked if I'd been drinking or having people over. Neither of them seemed too concerned. But before they left, one of them stopped near the dock. He angled his flashlight down at the wooden boards and called the other officer over. I watched them speak in low voices for almost a minute. When they came back to the house, I asked what they found. The older officer hesitated, then said quietly, "Bare footprints." I asked where they went. He looked past me, straight toward the lake, into the water. After they left, I locked every door again, but sleep didn't come, not really. Every small sound in the house felt amplified, a settling wall, a shifting beam, the wind brushing against the windows, and each one jolted me awake all over again. Sometime around 4 in the morning, I heard movement downstairs. Not footsteps, something slower, heavier, like something dragging across the wood floor. I grabbed the fireplace poker and stood outside my bedroom, listening. The sound lasted several seconds, then stopped. Silence again. I forced myself to go downstairs. Every light was still off. The house looked empty, but the glass door leading to the deck was wide open. Cold air poured inside. I froze. I knew I had locked it. I stepped forward carefully, heart pounding in my ears, and that's when I saw it. Wet footprints, all over the deck. They led straight into the house, and then back out again. I couldn't move for a second. My brain refused to process it. The prints were massive, bigger than mine. Water still shimmered in the grooves of the wood. Fresh. Very fresh. I followed them with my eyes, across the living room, through the kitchen. They paused briefly at the base of the stairs, then continued back outside. He had been inside, while I was upstairs. Something in me shifted at that moment. Not panic, something colder. Survival instinct. I locked the door again immediately, called my parents over and over. No answer. Their flight overseas must have landed hours ago. I wanted to leave, more than anything. But my keys were still in the kitchen, right by the deck entrance.
and I couldn't force myself to go back in there. I stayed upstairs until sunrise. When light finally broke over the lake, I didn't wait another second. I packed what I could and drove straight into town. Spent the morning in a diner trying to convince myself it didn't happen, that the door didn't latch, that the footprints were old, that I had misread everything. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. Around noon, my dad finally called back. I told him everything. To my surprise, he went completely silent. Then he asked something that didn't make sense at first. Did he say anything specific? I frowned. What do you mean? The man, he said quietly. What exactly did he say to you? I repeated it. I'm cold. I know you're in there. Can you help me? There was another long pause. Then my dad said something that made my stomach drop. Leave the house, he said. Don't go back there. Not until I call you. I already left. Good. Stay away. Before I could ask why, he hung up. 2 hours later, he called again. His voice was different this time. Tighter. Careful. And he asked me something I didn't expect at all. Do you remember a story from when you were little? I didn't. He said it happened about 5 years before I was born. A man drowned in the lake behind our property. Not exactly at our dock, but close enough to be part of the same stretch of water. And then my dad said the part I'll never forget. He'd gone missing after stumbling away drunk from a party nearby. His body wasn't found for almost a week. According to my dad, he hadn't drifted far. The man had somehow ended up trapped beneath an old collapsed section of dock further down the shoreline, hidden, pinned, just out of sight. The details were never made public, but one of the neighbors eventually found him, and that's when things got worse. Because before the body was discovered, multiple people reported something strange. Voices outside at night, someone calling for help, asking to be let in. My dad told me this like it was something he had been holding back for years. I gave a nervous laugh when he finished. It sounded absurd, like a small-town ghost story people tell to make the lake feel more interesting than it is. But my dad didn't laugh. He didn't even hesitate. I didn't want you staying there alone this summer, he admitted. My throat tightened. Then why let me? Because nothing like that had happened in years. That night, I stayed in a motel in town. I should have stayed there longer. I really should have. But by morning, something changed. Embarrassment crept in. Then doubt. Then rationalization. I started rewriting it in my head. A prankster, a homeless guy. Maybe even the police had seen him before and were just brushing it off. By noon, I convinced myself I was overreacting, and I drove back to the house. It looked normal. Sunlight on the water, birds in the trees, the deck dry, no footprints, no signs of anything at all. For a moment, I actually felt stupid. So I tried to reset everything, cleaned the house, opened windows, acted like nothing had happened. By evening, I almost believed it. Then the power went out. Instantly. No flicker, no warning, just dead silence. TV off, lights off, Wi-Fi gone. I checked my phone. No service. Of course. I walked outside expecting the whole neighborhood to be dark, but it wasn't. Every other house still had power. Only mine didn't. That pressure came back immediately. Heavy. Familiar. I grabbed a flashlight from the garage and walked toward the breaker panel outside. As I rounded the corner, I stopped. The panel door was open. Every switch flipped down, not tripped. Not random, intentionally shut off. I stared at it for several seconds, then slowly turned around and saw them. Wet footprints in the grass behind me, leading straight toward the woods. Fresh, still dark with moisture. I backed away slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand, and then I heard it again. Humming. Close. Too close. Somewhere between the trees. That same broken, off-key tune from the lake. I ran back inside and locked everything, every door, every window. No hesitation this time. I called the police immediately. While waiting, I sat in the kitchen, gripping the flashlight so tightly my hand went numb. The humming didn't stop. It moved. Around the house. Back deck, garage side, kitchen window. Circling. Like it was waiting. And every time it got close, it sounded wrong. Wet. Like water being forced through something that wasn't meant to breathe. The officers arrived fast. 3 cars this time, flashlights sweeping through the woods. I stayed inside, watching shadows move across the walls. Eventually, there was a knock. One of the officers asked to come in. They hadn't found anyone, but one of them paused in the kitchen. He lowered his flashlight. The beam caught something on the floor. Water droplets, leading from the back door straight into the house. My stomach dropped. The officer followed them slowly, step by step. The trail went down the hallway, stopped at the bathroom door. He opened it. Empty. But the bathtub was full, completely full of dark, still water. Leaves floating on the surface, a sour smell rising from it. The officers went quiet, then started checking everything again. Closets, rooms, attic. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no explanation. One officer muttered that maybe I'd done it myself. Another looked like he didn't believe a word of it, but wasn't going to say why. Before leaving, the oldest officer pulled me aside. His voice was lower now, tired, careful. He asked me something unexpected. Did the humming sound familiar to you? I just stared at him. He looked away for a moment like he regretted asking, then said, "You're not the first person who's heard it." That was all I needed. I packed a bag immediately. I was done with that house. I told myself I'd wait in town until my parents got back, but as I went upstairs to grab clothes, I saw something through my bedroom window. The dock, and someone standing at the end of it. Tall, still, watching the house. Then I noticed something else. A second shape in the water. Smaller, half submerged, just beneath the surface. For a second, it looked like a child.
I blinked, and it was gone. The surface of the lake was smooth again, but the tall figure didn't move. He just stood there, staring. And then slowly, he raised his arm and pointed directly at the house. That's when every instinct I had told me the same thing. Leave. I grabbed my bag and ran downstairs. As I reached the front door, there was knocking. 3 slow knocks, right from the other side. I froze. Every part of me went still. Then the voice came, immediate, soft. "Please," barely a whisper. "I'm still cold." I stepped back instinctively. My hand tightened around the strap of my bag. Then another voice followed, higher, younger. "Let us in." That did it. I didn't think. I just moved. I ran through the garage, jumped into my car, and drove away without looking back once. I didn't slow down until I hit town. For 3 days, I stayed at a friend's apartment. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard water, or knocking, or that humming. Then my parents finally came back that weekend. My dad didn't come to me first. He went straight to the lake house, alone. He didn't explain why, just said he needed to check something. When he returned later that night, he wasn't the same. I'd never seen my father shaken before. Not like that. Not ever. He sat down without saying much at first, then told me one thing. We were selling the property. Immediately. No discussion, no delay. I asked him what he saw. He refused to answer at first. For a long time, he just sat there in silence. Then finally, he spoke. Years before we bought the house, there had been another drowning. A child. A little boy who went missing during a storm. The entire neighborhood searched for him. Days later, they found him, tangled beneath the remains of an old, collapsed dock. The same area where everything had started. Same water, same shoreline. And after that, things didn't fully stop. People in the area started reporting strange sounds at night. Voices near the lake, calling for help. Sometimes humming, sometimes knocking. I asked my dad why none of this was ever told to me. He looked away for a long time, then said quietly, "Because your mother heard it once too." That sentence hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't just fear, it was certainty, like he wasn't guessing anymore. We sold the house that month, and we never went back. The house sold 6 months later. My parents never spoke about what happened there again, not once. But that isn't where it ends, because about 2 years later, I got a message online from someone I didn't know. Their profile showed a woman living at our old lake house. The message was simple. She asked if I had ever lived there. I said yes. A few seconds passed. Then she replied, "Did anyone ever knock on the windows at night?" My stomach dropped immediately. I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the screen. Then another message came through. "Please respond." Then, "I think someone's outside." I asked if she had called the police. She replied instantly, "Yes." Then one more message followed. "He keeps asking to come inside." After that, nothing. She stopped replying completely. I checked her profile for days. No updates, no activity. Then one morning, it was gone, deleted, like she had never existed at all. I tried to forget about it, told myself it was a coincidence, a prank, something unrelated. But that feeling never really left. Because sometimes, late at night, I wake up to sounds outside my apartment. Not loud, not urgent, just soft, slow, rhythmic, like wet footsteps moving across pavement that should be dry. And a few months ago, it happened again. Around 2 a.m, I woke up to knocking on my bedroom window. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, exactly the same as before. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then I heard it, through the glass, that humming, the same broken off-key tune from the lake. I don't live anywhere near water anymore, not even close. And still, I stayed frozen in bed, afraid that even breathing would make it worse. When I finally forced myself to look, there was nothing outside. No figure, no movement, just darkness. But on the ground below my window, there were wet footprints, leading away from the building, down the street, like something had come from far away, just to find me again.